Welcome to Panda Paradise. Our is today we're bringing on Centribus Stables from the Wizard Treasure Project. We have our co-host Paul, and thank you
Hi guys.
for our AMA. So
Yeah, no, thanks for having us. A lot of the wizards I think are listening now, so it's really good to get on and speak to an already established project that's obviously got a really good community behind them and a good team. So yeah, it's really good to have a chat with you all.
Thank you so much for the kind words. We're glad to have you on here. This is great. And so just a few housekeeping things that we go over every time. So me and Panda Genesis will be asking questions to Centribos for the next 10-15 minutes. And then if you guys have any questions, we can bring you on either over Twitter Spaces or in the Discord. We just have you raise your hands and then we can bring you on to ask questions if you want to ask that way. If not, you can also put your questions into the Panda Lounge chat, and we'll be monitoring that and bringing those questions on as they make sense. As well, Centribus can be looking over those questions and answering as he sees fit too.
Yeah. I'm watching the Panda Lounge now. So if anything needs to be asked, just chuck it in there.
Cool. So without further ado, welcome once again. And if you don't mind, could you start us off with a small intro, some background, and your involvement with the project?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll give a little bit of background on me and I guess my journey in NFTs and crypto. So from a professional standpoint, I'm a wealth manager and deal with high net worth individuals, and also do quite a bit of corporate work in terms of raising funds for companies looking to list and listed companies, bringing them to market. So in terms of starting new projects or at least working with companies to work out where their strengths and weaknesses lie to bring them to the broader market is something that I'm fairly well versed on. In terms of crypto, my first foray was not super early. It was 2014. I got involved with Bitcoin and just passively buying, and added to that over time, and then obviously Ethereum as well. And my NFT journey actually started a lot later than a lot of people. I mean, obviously would have been great to get in at 2017 with some punks and everything else, but I was about 3 years late, back end of 2020. Started looking in a little bit more in depth into terms of the market and what was happening. And then from February on, I've been very involved in the space. A project called Zed, which is a horse racing game, NFT horse racing game. I was very active in, and that really brought me across to the broader NFT space, where I was fairly lucky to be involved with the apes very, very early on, and saw the whole space evolve. Now, in conjunction with that, I've seen essentially the space evolve from a very tight-knit community broadly to becoming quite a large market now, where there has been a fundamental shift from people being able to come in without a lot of experience and being able to find projects that are backed by a strong team, a strong community. With a flood of projects that we've seen over the past couple of months, this has become materially harder, particularly for those that don't have that prior crypto experience. For the fresh-faced into both crypto and NFT worlds, the NFT space can just be so daunting to enter in the first place, which is really where the idea of Wizards came from, in terms of the actual utility of what we're doing. So, Wizards as a function is a DAO. Obviously, I chose Wizards personally from a gaming background. Growing up, I was always picking the Wizards in games. I love the fact that we can have such a broad aspect in terms of the magic and everything that we can look to build into the platforms that we will be building over a number of roadmaps. But the functionality really that we're looking to try and give to our holders in roadmap 1 is the ability to choose exposure as to what they want in terms of the NFT space. And the way that we are going to be doing that is that we have created, instead of just one vault through a DAO structure, we're creating 3 different vaults with 3 very different goals with each of them. We've obviously got the blue chip vault, which everyone would be very versed with, particularly with the pandas, obviously a very similar sort of structure. We then have a collab vault. Now, this vault is for those projects where we, as both a founding partnership and once the DAO structure obviously is set up as a community, feel that there's projects out there that are still quite early on, like the pandas, but are backed by an extremely strong community. I can't stress that fact enough, that the community of and the strength of the communities in these projects, to me, is one of the top factors that I look for when looking to add a project to the vault, because I've said it a number of times to publicly and also to people looking to enter the space. The reason that I actually entered the Bored Apes in the first place personally was because of the community. Everything else sort of came second, and obviously I'm far more versed in terms of what else to look for now, but without a strong community, you're going to have a very, very hard time having a strong project. So I think that's one factor that we're able to identify very early on for our collab vault, which will lead us to be able to support projects through this cycle and into hopefully the blue chip vault over time. And this, the third vault obviously complements both of those in the sense that it's an early access vault, right? So in the real investment world, those with big wallets and good connections often get the best returns because their institutional power that they hold obviously gets them access to projects earlier. And that's what we're trying to create with Wizards, is that we want to be that community that speaks to upcoming mints and large projects, and essentially be the cornerstone for their project. Because what's going to happen is we would be able to go and say, look, we want to put, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 Ethereum, maybe even 10% of the project, 5% of the project into our vault, because we see that your project's going to have a huge demand, and we see that your roadmap is extremely strong, your community is extremely strong. We will then gain that access for our holders, rather than each individual holder having to go and try to get a whitelist spot, whether it's closed early or whether you have to hold an ape to get it. All those barriers to entry we're trying to reduce for those people that, one, might want to hold a passive NFT without having to do all that work, or two, just don't simply have the assets to be able to participate. So that's essentially the full infrastructure of what we're trying to do, and it's a full life cycle of an NFT. What we hope to be able to achieve is take an early access project, put that in the first vault, then support their floor post-mint with our collab vault, and eventually have that particular project move all the way into our blue chip vault, which is the likes of will be the likes of Bored Apes, Cool Cats, etc., etc. So we want to have that full life cycle and be known as a community that's actually supporting the projects that we enter into, rather than just trying to gain profit from them.
Wow, what a comprehensive answer. I love the system that you guys are setting up with 3 vaults. Like I haven't, forgive me, I haven't done too much research into your project yet. I've been a little bit busy, but
that's fine.
That is awesome to hear. And to riff off one thing that you said, which I completely agree with, which is that community, right? Like the first 2 factors, whenever I look into investing in any NFT project, the first one is because when it comes down to it, like crypto, people might get distracted by the technology. But when it comes down to it, crypto goes all the way down to the people. It's all about the people, and that includes the team and the community. Those are the first 2 factors I always look for a project. So with my first or second question, how many people do you have working on your team? Like, what's the team size right now? I always ask this question, but who do you have working?
So we've got 4 founders, and we each bring very different skills to the game. So obviously my background in finance, and obviously I've been quite lucky to build a bit of a following through Zed and the broader community, just because of the timing that I was able to get into the market. Then we've got our developer whose idea actually was the the instant staking, which I can touch on as well in a second. Then we've got a third person who's a great connector of people and really good with all the videos and the marketing that we're doing. And the third is PR that we have on board as well. And she's a female, so we've got a woman founder on the board as well, which we were really keen. And one of our first reveals in terms of our sneak peeks was the fact that we're doing both a male character and a female character, which was pretty important to us. Aside from the founders, we've got another 3 community managers that work really closely with us, and we've got another female in there as well. So it was really important to us to be diverse in our team and to make sure that as the community grows, because as we know, NFTs are still extremely early, and I think this is going to be a space that isn't going to be dominated just by males in terms of the way it is now. I would say it's probably 95%. But as it becomes more mainstream and the utilities of these different projects increase, I think it's very important to be very cognizant of that fact, that we're going to have a vast improvement in terms of the mix of gender, and it was really important to us to make that sort of very early on that point known. But to answer your question directly, so we've got 4 founders, and then we've got 3 that are working as community managers, and so that's 7 on the team, and they'll be on the website with all their experience. And then from there, we've obviously got mods, and realistically, our Discord has grown in terms of community extremely quickly. I mean, we're open for, I think it was just over a week and a half, and we've already had 130,000 messages in the Discord, which is really a credit to the community managers and keeping control of it, but building a really strong community around it.
Sounds very promising. Yeah, I was just trying to get into the Discord myself, but it seems like the link from the main website didn't work on my end. So I'll have to figure that out soon.
Yeah, we'll have to definitely have a look at that. But look, I'll touch on just because I know I sort of brought it up and didn't expand on it either. So there is one thing that I think we're quite proud of in terms of what we're doing. So it's the ability at Mint. What we're going to offer is two prices. So our price is already set. So if you just want a mint, like a plain mint, it would be 0.065. However, we're giving the ability to mint and stake immediately. And the reason that we're doing that is obviously for a number of factors. One, we want to give the people that are looking at this project in a long term a reward, which is why we're offering, if you mint and stake immediately from the minting page, you actually get a discount. So you'll be paying 0.06 instead of 0.065. And obviously, because of the way that the transaction will work, there'll be a slight discount on the staking cost as well, as aside from minting and then deciding you want to stake later. So you'll be paying a premium and also then paying a slight premium on the cost to stake. And obviously there's a number of benefits to this. One, for the minter, you're going to get a discounted price, and you're going to be able to stake to the vault that you think you want exposure to immediately. So you'll be earning orbs from day dot. And secondly, for the community, obviously, because we're able to mint immediately, we're going to drastically reduce the amount of wizards that will be available for sale in the first coming days. So what we're going to hopefully see is upon sellout, there's not going to be 10,000 available for sale. There'll be 10,000 out there, wizards. But if our predictions of circa 50% of that then becomes minted immediately, because why wouldn't you if you can get a discount and a far cheaper way to get it staked? We'll only see a possible 5,000 out of the total 10,000 actually available for sale, and even less that would actually be putting it for sale. So I think we'll see quite a supported floor, purely on the basis that this is something that I haven't seen any other project do, and to be honest, I can't imagine why, and I can't take credit. It was actually our dev that said, why on earth wouldn't we do this immediately? We're planning everything well in advance. We're not rushing to this mint. Let's get this organized so the community can mint and stake immediately to, one, support the floor, and also reward those early stakers by earning from day dot, rather than launching the project and then starting to work on everything else. We want to make sure it's all up and running for our community immediately.
Yeah, it sounds like a win-win-win to me. Like, especially you guys are giving a discount for staking. If I heard you right, not only is the mint price cheaper, but you get to auto stake your NFT. So it's like, wow, you save gas twice.
That's right. That's right. I mean, if you wanted, obviously there'll still be the gas price on the staking as opposed to the straight buy would be slightly more, but we've done a little bit of testing there, and it is it's cheaper to do it this way than. I mean, you're obviously already getting the discount on the actual NFT themselves, but certainly even on the gas pricing, you are better off doing it this way. So I agree. I can't see, certainly from my perspective, if you believed in the project, which I hope you would by minting in the first place, why you would do it any other way to really get the rewards immediately. And upon sellout, we've already got a very strong idea of what we'll be going out and buying. Certainly with the blue chip vault, and obviously with projects like yours, we're making it a very concerted effort to do a lot of research. Like 50% of my job leading up to this mint is actually going out to the community at the moment and the broader community and starting to find these projects that we want to actually start giving our staking wizards access to, because it's something that takes a lot of research, and obviously, even organising this takes quite a bit of time from your end and our end. And at the end of the day, these projects that we put in these vaults are going to be in there for a long time. So we want to make sure that we are very confident in the projects that we're putting in there, because at the end of the day, the project is only going to be partly as good as what we put into these vaults and how well they do. Obviously, we've got roadmap 2 virtually already planned out, and that will give a lot of utility to both orbs and our wizards themselves. But we want to make sure that these vaults are performing particularly well as well.
So I have a question. So how much of the mint are you going to allocate to the vault?
Yeah, so 50% of the mint is going straight to the 3 vaults. So there'll be at least 100 Ethereum. That's on the cheaper price, 100 Ethereum to each vault. That will then depend upon, and we'll be quite cautious on that, because there may be more that we'd like to add to a particular vault, and there may be less. So with blue chips, the way that they are, obviously, an ape's around 50 Ethereum now. So that's important that we determine that. But obviously, what will be an extra layer for the community is actually determining what is best for them in terms of gaining exposure and how their orbs might actually then trade if there's a liquidity pool or whatever else being set up by the community, right? Because it will be a function of the underlying value of each individual vault. So it might become a little bit in terms of actually making a decision not only of what exposure you want, but what is actually going to give you the best monetary value for the orbs that you're actually receiving against a given vault. So to make it very plain, there's 100 Ethereum going to each vault, but as any DAO, we will be going to the community and making those decisions with them. We're even down to going to the community, and I've stated this in the Discord, around the amount that each whitelist spot can actually mint, right? Because initially we went out there and said, look, it's going to be 2, and the feedback that we got was that many would like maybe at least 3 in the sense that there's 3 vaults and everyone wants to gain exposure to having one wizard staked against each vault. So in terms of what we're trying to do, we're putting our ideas out there, which we think we've done a lot of work on, but we really want to have a community base here where we're working with them, because this isn't a project for us. It's the whole reason that the project has been built is because really a lot of my friends have come to me and gone, how on earth do we gain exposure to this space? What do? We don't know anything about it. I've got some friends that are in their 50s as well that didn't even know what Discord and don't have a Twitter, right? So how on earth do we onboard these people without sitting down with them and teaching the whole space over one by one over a week or a month? And this, in my opinion, is the best way to do that, because they join a community where they're going to learn a lot, and the community has a lot of the say as well.
Okay, cool. And also, have you decided how much royalties go towards purchasing the card?
Yeah, we have, again, this will be spoken about closer to mint day, but it'll be essentially a standard 10 with 7.5 going straight back into the vaults, right? So the 75% of all royalties will be going straight back in, which we think is important because obviously, as the transactions keep kicking through, we want to be able to build on these vaults, and it's particularly important when you've got 3 of them, because what we believe will happen is that the blue chip vault will probably be inflated pretty quickly. We're pretty bullish on like many of us are. We're pretty bullish on a couple of blue chip projects, Apes in particular. I think that certainly by the end of this year, they're going to be materially higher than where they are now. So that's something that we need to be cautious of. But also we need to remain quite liquid for the other 2 vaults, because the other 2 vaults are quite opportunistic in their nature. The blue chip vault obviously is more of a buy and hold, where we're really starting to, and particularly the early stage vault, it's a case of networking from us as founders and the community, and we need to be ready to sort of strike with quite a bit of liquidity. So in the real world fund management business, for example, there's always a function of holding a level of cash or high liquidity to be able to access these opportunities as they arise. So we need to be cautious of that as well. So we're trying to provide as much liquidity from the aftermarket back into these vaults to make sure that there's always a level of liquidity if a new Doodles was to come out. That's probably a really good example of a project that we would have approached and looked to essentially be a cornerstone of and take a large portion of that, which they know that is going to be taken up. So they've got the funding to do whatever they need to do from a roadmap perspective or whatever else. And they also know that it's not going to be sold anytime soon. We're not flipping these things because of the function of the way that the DAO will work. So it's that if there's a question around what we would be looking for in term of early stage projects, the Doodles was an absolute no-brainer for us. If we had have been already minted at the point that they were going to whitelist and everything else, that's a really good example of what we'd be doing with our early stage vault.
Yeah, we're going through the same types of progress. So of course we're gonna offer as much liquidity as possible from our secondary sales, and yeah.
How long have
other questions on the Twitter space? You can feel free to request to speak. I mean, there's a lot of you on there as well. But go ahead, Paul.
Sure. Yeah, I was just gonna ask, how long has the development process been going on so far?
Yeah, it's been going on for a number of months, because obviously we're doing a few things that are new. So it's not a case of being able to just copy another DAO structure. And obviously a lot of the auto minting has been completely developed by our awesome dev. So there's been a lot of work for a number of months. So we'd be pushing on 3 months before we even sort of looked at the Discord and the Twitter and everything. So there's been a lot of work behind this, and a lot of people have asked why we haven't gone and pushed this more in terms of marketing and paid marketing. And my answer's always sort of been the same with this, is that as I sort of stated at the beginning, it's imperative for us to have a community of people that want to be in this for the longer term, because it's really not a project that we want people flipping in and out of. We totally understand, there's liquidity there, and this in any project, there's going to be people that have, hopefully the ability to have a life-changing amount of money if the Wizards take off like we hope they will. But we're not pushing this to influencers or anyone else. We want this to grow organically, because the engagement that we get with even just over 3,000 people in the Discord at the moment is quite astounding. There's really no dead times in our Discord. It's always busy. There's people already doing amazing community art, really high engagement on Twitter. So in terms of, there's been a hell of a lot of work prior to this point, and there will continue to be a lot of work. We've already got our 1 year, our 18-month, our 3 year, and our 5 year plans pretty well sorted. So this isn't something that we're looking to launch and then hope for the best. This is something that we've all three professionals have come together on this with, as I said, very diverse backgrounds that we think that we can actually make this play for quite a long time. So in terms of like minting and everything else, it's going to be more clarity around that once we hit the 5,000 mark. I've said the whole way along that we'll be able to give a direct date once we hit 5,000, and that will actually set off a number of things within the Discord as well. A couple of examples being obviously the vote around how many will be able to be minted on whitelist. We need to be sure that we're looking after our members that have been there for the longer period of time, so we want to think about that. And obviously there'll be an update to the website as well, and a number of other things that we want to keep somewhat secret. We've been very open about what we're doing, but we've tried to make it a bit of a journey for our early stage community. We, for example, we're doing puzzle pieces for the first reveals, and each stage that we hit was first 750 people in the Discord, and then we released a number of puzzle pieces and information about the staking. Obviously, a majority of that is done now, but we're already starting, and we're not sort of getting ahead of ourselves before mint, but we're already starting to speak about some of the things that we're going to deliver in Roadmap 2. And the reason for that is that we've been working on this so long that we're very well prepared for Roadmap 1. It's all it is now a function of being able to actually sell out, because all the background behind it is pretty well done for Roadmap 1. It's just a function of selling out and building the community and moving straight on to all the really cool things that we've got planned for Roadmap 2.
A lot of things to dig in there. One of the questions that came to mind was like, do you guys see yourself as like an entry point for like the more traditional investor that wants to get into exposure into NFT space, like through one of these vaults? Is that how?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it is in a sense, because we have a lot of plans around how we are going to onboard people that have never been exposed to crypto. That's certainly well within our mindset of, yes, 100% we're focusing on our current community, and the vast majority of those are already reasonably well versed in, if not DAOs, certainly the NFT space. But the reason that we're doing it like this is exactly like you said. Someone that's entering the space initially will be able to buy this one NFT with a fairly low amount of onboarding, and will actually get a lot of information by holding that one NFT, because obviously they're going to get exposure not just to blue chips, but they're going to see the actual process of what it takes to get on a whitelist, because we'll be keeping them obviously abreast of that journey throughout the whole period. When we're looking to reach out to projects for the early access vault, we'll be also keeping everyone aware of what we're thinking and why we're thinking certain projects in the collab vault as well. So it's not only giving you exposure to what we think will be fruitful in terms of a financial sense, because we feel that we'll be buying projects that will obviously materially move higher, we hope, but also an educational piece, because they're getting the whole, I guess, life cycle of what a brand new member would be. And that's, first, generally speaking, you go and buy something on OpenSea that you hope is good because you've done a little bit of research, and then a lot of us then move to mints because we think that's the next best place to go. Often, without a lot of background or education around it. And then, obviously the holy grail is that we all get exposure to the blue chips as well. So to answer your question, absolutely, that's what we're trying to be able to do, is look after both the current NFT space, but we've got some really big plans in Roadmap 2 of how we're going to best onboard those people that don't even hold crypto. And
Right.
It's something that obviously we can't say too much about, but that's one of our main goals of this project is to be the go-to project for people that are brand new to entering the space.
My next question would be, so each of these orbs, your tokens, right? They're going to be backed by a fractional piece of these vaults.
Right.
Like, did you guys already implement all the testing and work for the smart contracts?
Yeah, so the dev's obviously well down the path in terms of that. He's doing a lot of the testing. Actually, I had a meeting with them the other day around a lot of the testing for that, and we're comfortable based on obviously what's already out there and has been tested. Obviously there's the likes of Mutant Cats and everyone else that have had quite a long period of time out in the market now in terms of what they've been using and how it's been functioning. And obviously we've built off that and obviously put our own spin to these things. But obviously security for us is imperative when not only have we got exposure to 1 vault, but we've got exposure to 3 and how we actually function it. And that's been obviously why there's been such a long lead up time to coming to market and making sure that if we're going to try and get a reputation of being essentially almost a fund of NFTs, that it's imperative that security is very, very clear and very, very robust. So there's been a lot of work around that, and I mean, I would say there's probably at least 3 times more in terms of time that we've spent in terms of what we've been working on. But the dev has been doing a huge amount of testing to make sure that we're well on top of all of that.
Yeah, we're totally experiencing the same thing. Like every now and then would be presented with new tokenomics. So we're there just deciding what's best for the community, as well as adding potential fail-safes to protect ourselves.
Yeah. Well, actually, our genius dev has just jumped into my. He's listening at the moment, so he's just jumped into my inbox and he said that we currently have over 40 automated unit tests as well, and we've got more under development. So that gives you, I guess, a little insight as to the breadth that we're working with in terms of how much we're really focusing on making sure that all, if there are any holes in other people's projects, that we're certainly not going to have any in ours.
One of the questions we had from our Discord, I'll try to frame it in a different way, which is like, can you give us a rundown again about how the 3 vaults are differentiated? Like, one is the blue chip vault, and then what are the other 2, like the specialties?
Yeah, so there's the early access vault. So again, think of that's pre-mint, right? So the whole point of the early access vault would be to be adding exposure to NFTs during their markets, essentially where we are now, right? So think of where we are now, and would be looking at projects that are leading up to mint and still have, whether it's whitelists or looking to have people come on board. That's when we'll start our discussions with the project founders. And essentially what we're hoping to be able to achieve for the community is to get a large allocation of what otherwise wouldn't be possible, right? Because the reason for this, and when you actually think of it as a founder of a project, if you have a DAO like us coming to you and saying, we want to support, we've looked at your roadmap, we've looked at your project, and we're comfortable that we think there's quite a bit of upside long term. What we want to do for you is take, let's say it's 5% of the total project. So let's say we take 500 of a 10,000 project. And what we're going to do is we're going to work with you to make sure that you can achieve everything that you're looking at. We'll give you all the help that we can, both from a community standpoint and obviously all the things that we've learned. And what that will then hopefully do is we will then support them, one, by not being sellers, and you'll have essentially a cornerstone, which is in the finance world known as a large holder that's actually supporting the deal and working from that. And then what we would then do is, assuming that the project continues to deliver on what we think are the deliverables and what we've discussed with the team, we would then look at using the second of the 3 vaults, which again is the collab vault. Now that is the vault where we can then go out and support floors of projects that are still early stage, but think projects like yourself, even up to where we're having discussions with Lazy Lions as well. So from
I see.
from the 0.05 up to really that 1 to 2 Ethereum as well, right? So those projects that we think there's significant upside in, but they aren't classed as blue chips yet, right? So they're not going to be put into the blue chip vault because we don't think it's suitable for a long-term a long-term hold, and it's not. It's not pre-mint, so it's not going in the early stage. What that means is it's providing that full life cycle of what we can actually achieve for these projects. Because, for example, a pre-mint project, we'll take that up and put it in our early stage vault, and then after they mint, and we think that there's still significant upside, we'll be on the floor soaking up the selling because we think, well, we've just bought pre-mint. Maybe they've doubled from there, but we think that there's every possibility that this could be a 1 to 2 Ethereum project. We'll be in there buying it at 0.1, 0.2, which 1 creates hype for them. 2 obviously helps from a supportive point from supporting the floor, and you've essentially got a whole community of wizards that both own the exposure fractionally, but no doubt, as we know, people love to join in on these things as well. You've got 10,000 people that will be supporting your project as well as your own community. So that, I think, is a pretty clear understanding of the other 2 vaults in how they actually function. Yes, they're separate, but that doesn't mean that we aren't using them in conjunction to support the projects through their whole life cycle.
Fantastic. That's a really detailed answer. So thank you for that.
Not a problem. I'm just reading, trying to see if there were any questions in the Panda Lounge. I don't think there are in terms of related. Oh, here we go. Wondering if they move any projects between. Oh, is that essentially what we sort of answered? Wondering if they move any projects between vaults, like when a small.
Right. Yeah. That's a new.
Yeah, that's a good question actually, and obviously with the current structure and the way that things are fractionalized, you essentially you can't sell one thing out of a vault, right? But, and I don't want to touch on this too much now. The way that we're currently dealing with it is that if we've got, for example, in the collab vault, which is you've got the early stage, which is the pre-mint, and then the collab, which is post-mint. And say we're buying whatever project, say it's Pandas, and then Pandas turn out to do amazingly well, and then are seen as a blue chip vault purchase, right? We will then purchase them in the blue chip vault rather than continuing to buy them in the collab vault. So that will actually be the shift. Going forward in the future, and I just got to be careful around how much I say, in roadmap 2, there may be different functions of that, and it may not always be a function of you won't be able to reduce the holdings of a particular vault, whereas the structure which is safest at the moment, and that's obviously at the forefront of our mind, is that once you put something in the vault without selling the whole vault, you can't take things piece by piece, but that may not always be the case going forward.
See? Okay, and did anyone else in the crowd have any more questions? I don't know if you were getting anything from Twitter Spaces, Dennis?
Someone requested to speak, but I don't see him on anymore. So.
Okay. And also, how are we doing on time? I don't know, if you had a time in mind.
Well, I mean, final touch questions. I know we were just trying to announce this as our first launch pad. So what we could do is probably start gathering a whitelist, so you have an info of how many wallets are willing to mint the wizards.
Yeah.
And based on that number, you could tell us your plans on how to support our Panda Paradise community.
Yeah, for sure. And look, we touched on this before, and I said I couldn't, and I'll explain exactly why. Because I think being transparent about this stuff is important, as we discussed. I know you guys are really hot on that as well. And the reason that I you could say, okay, well, we've got 1,000 people on the whitelist. How many bears are we then going to support? The reason that I wouldn't commit to any number now is purely because the whole reason that we're doing this is that we want projects which we feel continue to deliver, right? And that's not talking down on anyone at all, but it's looking after the people that are putting money towards these vaults to make sure that we're putting the money in the right places, not just trying to get a particular project away. So when I say that is, obviously I'm super keen to keep working with you guys and to give access to the pandas to get on a whitelist. And what we'll then be able to do is both our founders and yours be able to sit down and go, okay, well, where are we at with your project? What are we thinking? Where are the deliverables? What needs to be achieved, and how are we going to achieve them? And then we can make that view going, well, we're really keen to really support this project up to a particular price, and then continue to support it at that price, because that's where we feel fair value might be. So that then becomes a completely different game, right? Because we might go, okay, well, we think pandas are undervalued at the current price. We think that they should be, given what we know and how strong we think the team are, we think that they should be at 0.15. So that doesn't mean that we're going to stop buying once they're there. That just means that that's the price where we think fair value is. So if we saw a sell-off from 0.15 when we get to close to that level and it's sold back to 0.8, then we may step into the market again and buy further. We're not a static project. We're very fluid in terms of the way that we're looking at these things, in the sense that price is actually really important to us, because we're not doing it just to gain exposure to a project and hope for the best. We're doing it in the sense that we want to see value, we want to see deliverables. But the amazing thing of this market is it's completely inefficient, right? Like there is
Totally.
there are so many gaps which I see all the time, which if only I had a project like this at my disposal, where I can speak to projects, and that we have a significant amount of capital behind us as a group, it can just be capitalized on, because there are sell downs for absolutely no reason. The level of emotion in trading in this space is massive, and like if you extrapolated that out to a Nasdaq or a Dow Jones, you'd see the thing trading up and down 50% a day. Like that's the sort of inefficiency that I feel is currently in this market, where it's really ripe for the taking for a project like this to be able to support projects all the way through their life cycle, and not buy just to get a whitelist or to get holders or whatever else, but to actually buy based on price and deliverable, which I don't think the blue chip vaults, you still have to do a lot of work. You have to make sure you're buying the right blue chips at the right time, but there's not a lot of in-depth work with founders and roadmaps and everything else. It's pretty well organized outside that. So I hope that gives you a reasonable clarity around what we mean when we go, well, we're not going to say we're going to buy 500 bears or pandas or anything else. It's the fact that we want to work with you guys and support it in the way that's best for both our holders and yours, because the goal of this obviously is to support you guys, because we see a strong future in the project. But in the same thing, we don't want your holders coming over to us and taking part in the mint, and then we're going off and just willy-nilly picking whitelist spots and promising things that to buy up their floor, when all it's doing is, we might get the mint away, but then we've got a whole heap of rubbish in the vault. So it's important to us that we sort of manage that, and the best way to do that is to continue working together and work on making sure that the project gets to where we think it actually deserves to be.
Yes, totally agreed. Like one of the most exciting things that you answered earlier on when you're talking about like the other founders, and like what I'm excited for when it comes to like a partnership with you guys, would be like that expertise and that like that collaborative effort, that you want, like you're offering to our teams, like to make sure that we can get to the goals that we get to, like within reason, support from you guys. So like I'm really excited for that. I'm sure a lot of pandas are like, oh, how much capital can they throw our way? Like, but that's not really the level I'm thinking about this on. So thank you for going into that.
No, that's fine. And I think you've really pulled the major part of that out, right? Is it's not just monetary value at your floor. It's you're building a group of communities together, where suddenly what I hope to happen is that what the market will actually start to focus on is people will be watching the Wizards Vault, and they'll be going, because a lot of this stuff obviously will be spoken about for holders, right? It's not going to be out there in the general public because we don't want people front running us and everything else. And I would suggest there's going to be situations in the future where they see certain NFTs added to our collab vault, and that in itself, as you know, and I'm sure you're aware in the real world, like if you see a BlackRock, which is one of the largest institutions in the world, suddenly buying a small stock, the stock goes through the roof because they're going, well, geez, these guys have obviously done their work really,
they know something, right?
exactly, right? So I can't express how excited I am for this project because I can see that happening, and what that then becomes is a snowballing effect where we enter a project and that's all we have to do, and the project suddenly gets a whole lot of attention. The floor gets absolutely ripped higher because people want to get exposed to what we're exposed to because of the work we're doing behind it.
This is kind of a tangent question, but when it comes to because the way I understand it, you're with going back to potentially recruiting in traditional investors. So when it comes to regulations and around DAOs, around NFTs, around potential securities, I don't know how much research you guys done into the law or legality. You want to speak on that or
Yeah, no, we can look. Obviously, it's a very new space, right? So the reason that we could have put a lot more into Roadmap 1 that we have left out for that exact reason, because we're happy to walk the line in terms of all we're doing now is just gaining different exposure than every other DAO out there, right? So that's what we're offering. And then in terms of advice, we can give advice to any project that we see fit. That doesn't change any of the legalities around it. So I think the legal challenges or any other challenge in terms of what we can actually do, that will come far more in Roadmap 2, where I've been lucky enough to already have a pretty in-depth discussion with another project around legalities. They've spent a lot of money on lawyers, and to be frank, the lawyers are even trying to catch up at the moment. Usually the lawyers are the first ones on the ball, and then the regulators come last. But it's so new in terms of what we're doing and what we have planned that even the lawyers are trying to catch up to see exactly what is possible and what isn't. So in terms of Roadmap 2, there's a lot of work that is to be done around that space, because obviously we've seen what has happened to some projects around, OpenSea, taking them off and everything else. And we've been very, very aware and very cautious about what we put on the website, what we are putting in descriptions, how we go about creating any sort of token or whatever else we are doing. Because, unfortunately, as decentralized as we all wish the space was, it's the kiss of death if you get kicked off OpenSea at the moment, which shouldn't be the case, but it is. So we're
for now.
For now, exactly. So we're well aware of the market movements and the market, temperature in terms of these sort of things and what we need to focus on. And certainly we will be very well versed and very well advised before we put any sort of new and innovative change to the project before we sort of pull the trigger. We're very well across that, and it's important for all of us to keep going and keep getting that advice, because it's only going to become a bigger issue as more and more people come into the space, particularly, as you said, with that more traditional investment. It's very important to keep across that, because as you have people that aren't exposed to crypto and aren't used to the wild west that is NFTs at the moment, we want to make sure people are protected as much as possible.
Definitely. Well, that answers most of my questions. Dennis, do you have anything more?
Yeah, there's 10,000 to mint, and that obviously is all it will be. We won't be changing that. Even on the absolute terrible case that any sellout that doesn't occur, which based on the demand that we're getting for the whitelist and everything else at the moment, I would be very surprised about. We will still have a 10,000 collection, and it'll be a matter of getting that last bit away, because I have an issue with sometimes projects cutting it down to like 2,000 just because they didn't get the demand. It's not the way it should be done, because our roadmap is obviously very, very ambitious, and it's really important to us to deliver everything that we're going to do. And that 10,000 is obviously set in stone for us.
Then also, you said you're just big on organic marketing. This is what you just talked about. Are you going to set aside any budget for marketing?
Yeah, look, once we're minted and we feel that, because look, the main priority for me is that we're doing this to support obviously the smaller NFT enthusiasts, right? So the thing that I was worried about with going out and paying for influencer marketing and everything else is you get some people that will come in, they'll buy 100 NFTs and they'll flip them, and they won't actually support the project, they won't add any value. So prior to mint, we're very cautious of that. With a lot of the things that we've got planned, there will become a function of like real world marketing, because we're looking to be a project that transcends both the crypto world, the NFT world, and the normal world, if you like to put it like that. So there will be certainly marketing set aside for those purposes, but really what we're doing at the moment is we're working with our community members. Like we've got people that have come in who are streamers, who are they're happy just to do a giveaway and a reveal on their stream, right? They're not even asking for payment, because at the end of the day they're going to mint and they want to be supportive of the community. And that's the great thing about this, is because we haven't done that real hard push for paid influencer marketing, is that we're getting people in that want to help us build this community and become part of it, and in turn they're helping themselves, right? So up until the mint, the way that we'll be doing it is reaching out to people in our community, and then many of them, we've already got a number of streamers that are on the whitelist, and that was purely, again, organic, whether it's from the Twitter that they've seen or friends within the community letting them know. It's all built really just on the basis of a few of us getting in the Discord and reaching out to friends, and that networking approach that we've sort of been able to achieve the growth so far. And yeah, again, I can't express how happy I am with the way that the community's going, and there's just absolutely no negativity or anything in the chat. And we've got people hosting quizzes at night, and suddenly I'm up till 1 a.m. playing quizzes for unknown reasons. It's really good. So yeah, post mint, sure, there will 100% be paid marketing, because what we have planned will require to bring a lot of people from the normal world into the space, and that's the whole point of it. But up until that fact, we'll really want to just rely on the community side of it.
Two quick follow-up questions. If you have the ballpark estimates for this, like when mint, and also like how many, do you have like an estimate or like a ballpark for how many whitelist spots that you would be able to grant our community?
Yeah, look, there's two factors in answering that, right? So we've said all along, once we hit the 5,000 in the Discord, because of the way that we've done this, we've never been rushing to get to mint, right? Like we obviously would like to get it done before Christmas, and that's currently mid-December that we're thinking about that date, but we're not going to give a date until we get to that 5,000, because I've always said the whole way along, I would rather not go to mint than to mint and mint out 2,000 out of 10,000, right? Because you're essentially burning people's money at that point. I haven't seen a project that's done, well, if there has been, there's been very few that have tried to sell out 10,000, sell out 2, and then be a success for the long term, right? So that's the reason that I've not pushed us into a corner in terms of a particular date early on, and I'll feel comfortable based on the percentage of people that we have in the Discord and how many of those people have then signed up to the whitelist is quite a high percent. So I'm not particularly concerned. Once we hit 5,000, I think I can comfortably give a date, but just pencil in sort of mid-December and you'll be pretty close to it. And in terms of how many whitelists we can give to the pandas and the panda community, that will also then depend on how many at 5,000 the community votes that they wish to be able to receive in terms of the whitelist, right? So if for whatever reason we have to temper expectations because suddenly we've got 5,000 people on the whitelist, then we're more than happy to go, okay, well, it's obviously only 2 each, and that's the way that it's going to function. We're not going to have a public sale because our number one priority here is to look after the people that have been supporting us. And I'm not out there to try and help a whale, get 100 in a public mint. We're here to help the guys that are buying, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's a huge portion of what they're trying to invest in NFTs, and we want to look after those people. So to answer your question, I can't give you direct numbers now, but certainly we have the ability to add on, a sizable amount depending on your demand for the pandas. We obviously already have a few over in the Discord after your last announcement, and it's quite clear that it's a really good community. We've got some really nice people over there being quite active as well. So we're keen to get as many of you on board as we can, and I'll work with both of you to make sure that we're tempering expectations as we lead up to that 5,000 on how many will be able to be minted. But it will be a function. How many can be minted will be a function of how much interest we get between now and 5,000.
Super.
It's kind of sounds like
that depends on the whitelist, right? So because the way that we're functioning the whitelist, we plan on giving approximately 24 hours to be able to mint it because we don't want gas wars. So we expect, if there is a public side of it, to be limited. So the 24 hours obviously is day one with the whitelist, and then day two being as soon as we open the public mint. I would certainly hope that we're, based on what we're seeing and the growth that we're getting, I would be certainly hoping to be selling out in a couple of hours from there, because obviously we expect a large portion to be gone in the whitelist.
all right.
Okay, and yeah, I'm super excited for the project too. One more question from Kung Fu Panda Mutanda. I think we covered this, but just to make sure, when we mint, we're able to auto stake to the vault of our choosing, right? Of the 3.
Yeah, you can. So, and this was something that is completely, again, I have to give a lot of credit to our developer. And initially there was a lot of issues around how it was going to be done and whether you could only do 111 or 112 or whatever it was. We've come up, well, when I say he has come up with a fantastic way of, you can actually stake. Say, for example, you say the number of whitelist spots is 4. Let's just use that as an example. In this case, you can stake 2 against the blue chip and 1 against the early access and 1 against the collab. You can go 2 against the blue chip and then not stake the others. Like whatever function you want to, whichever mix you want to be able to do, you will be able to do on minting. So it's completely up to you which mix you want to have, but we will give you that access, and you'll obviously be rewarded with the discount should you choose to mint and stake at the same time.
Well, thanks once again for coming on here.
No,
really
good. It was really good. It's good to get those. Obviously all these thoughts are running around in my head and I don't actually get a time to sit down and talk through all of them. So hopefully we gave a fair bit of insight to the pandas and the guys that might be interested. Always, I just want to make it clear that, that the Discord is, even if you want to be a fly on the wall, jump in, have a look. And if you've got any questions, all the community managers' DMs are open and my DMs are open as well. So we want to make sure that everyone's aware of what's going on. And if you've got any questions, just reach out.
Any final points to touch on, Dennis?
No, it's good. Sounds solid. We'll have it open for anyone to join your Discord if they want any more information. Thank you for joining us for our first Launchpad type AMA. We see good things, and maybe we could learn a little bit more from each other in terms of the NFT space, community, and DAO structure, and as well as basically just growing our community the way we want to. So
yeah, I think a lot of our interests align. I think we've got slightly different in terms of a few opportunities, but I think, as we've said, the community is the main thing, and I think we've really got an aligned interest in the way that we are building those communities. So yeah, it'd be great just to get an insight of, I don't know if you want to do it by a Google Sheet or whatever, and see what your community the demand is up to a whitelist, and we'll cross the rest of the bridges when we get there.
sounds good. All right,
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
signing off here. Paul, you have anything to say?
Nope, that was all. That was great. I look forward to more conversations with the Wizards. So thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, so we're closing off AMA number 4. For this one was the Launchpad discussion with the Wizard's Treasure. You'll catch this on a recap on our YouTube channel. Thank you guys, and good night, good morning, wherever you guys are from. Thank you for listening.